So high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world but keep the sky on your mind. So high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Andy's Shed Live, and this is a special New Year's Eve show. Hello everybody and welcome to the show this New Year's Eve. Can't believe it. Yeah, another year is on the way. Let's hope 2024 is better than 2023 was, that's all I can say. Yeah, hello, welcome to the show. Back in our normal abode after a couple of live streams over Christmas from the radio studio. So yeah, we're sort of going a little bit back to normal now. I'm just going to have a little look and see if I can get the live chat up in front of me. Yeah, there it is. There's the live chat. Yeah, well, cracky. Quite a few of you here today. Dominic's here, masquerading as GWR King Class. Miguet's here. Wesley is here. Miguet says, even all, hooray, Xmas is over. Worst part of the year. I couldn't agree with you more, Miguet. I really couldn't. I don't like it either. Where's this here? Christopher's here as well. Hi, Christopher. Yeah, it's 5:34 a.m. in, at least it was 10 minutes ago, in Australia. So yeah, Christopher's. I don't know if he's got up or not been to bed, but it'll be one or the other. So yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. Dominic says, did anyone see the 1959 telephone, the Ivory 706 on Fleabay? Yes, I did, Dominic. I did see it. In fact, I put a watch on it, but it was at £28 when I looked at it, and I thought £28 is too much. I thought to myself, way too much at £28. So on eBay it stayed. I don't know if it's still on, if it's finished yet or not, but yeah, £28 for a 706, even if it was an early one, is too much. So I did not bid on it. But yeah, talking of telephones, I have got something here in front of me. I have got one of these. I've had this a while. It's an American Princess, a real one, not a fake modern one. Now you can't see very well under this light, but this actually being painted pink. You can see it better on the side there. It was originally kind of beigey colour, and somebody had painted it pink, and I have started stripping it back to the beige. And the reason that I'm stripping it back to the beige, I did a piece on this ages and ages ago, but for any of you who can't remember it or didn't see it, it had been in a box, and for a long time it had had the line cord wrapped around it, or it had had some kind of electrical cable wrapped around it, and whatever that cable was made out of had been in contact with this plastic for a long time, or with the paint rather, and it had made the paint start to bubble. Now that, whatever plastic that cable is made out of, being in contact with this paint, it had made the paint start to bubble, and so the paint had gone all sticky in places. And I rubbed it off. I did it with some tea cut and rubbed the sticky paint off, and it left these marks on it where you can see the original colour through. Now luckily it's not done anything to the underlying plastic, but it has fetched the paint off. So I thought that was quite interesting, and what I will now do when I get a minute is fetch the rest of the paint off to take it back to its original colour. It may have been painted pink actually by Western Electric in America. In America, unlike the UK, they do actually paint telephones and send them out in different colours. In the UK, we've never done that. if the GPO wanted to make a telephone a different colour when they refurbished it, they actually fitted a new case to it. But America did used to paint things. Yeah, interesting stuff, isn't it? But this is a genuine Princess, and quite nice. It has been modified for modular. It has got a modular socket on it there, you'll see. It's one of two that I got a good few months ago. I went down to Deepest Darkest Kent to collect them, and I got them and a few other phones. It was one of my big batches of phones that I got. You don't get so many big batches of phones these days as you used to, but you used to be able to buy things in a big batch for well less than £100. It doesn't happen much these days, but early in the year I did have a couple of batches that came in, and this was in one of them. So yeah, that's the American Princess that we're doing a bit of work on at the moment. Just looking what everybody's up to in the chat. Christopher says he's not been to bed yet. He says he's been up all night for the new year. Dominic says he broke the tradition this year, had lamb for Christmas dinner. Oh, I'm glad I wasn't at yours then, Dominic. Yeah, I'm not keen on lamb. Too much gristle and stringy stuff in it. Wesley says it was a good shout though, because he's just finished the turkey soup today. Ah, well, you see, I didn't have a big turkey here. Only had a turkey crown here, and then only a medium-sized one. So we weren't eating it forevermore this year. Although I don't mind too much, because I quite like turkey. So yeah, what have you all been up to over the Christmas break? Of course, we've done a couple of live streams over Christmas. There have been a couple of lives that have gone out from the radio station. There will be more to come from the radio station very soon. We have actually been doing a broadcast test this afternoon. In fact, I'm not long back, but this afternoon we were testing the actual streaming out of it, and it does seem to be working. Now, because of some technical limitations, at the minute it's only streaming out in mono, but we know what the problem is. We know why it's doing it. It's not really a problem. We know why it's doing it, and we can hopefully get that sorted out and rectified fairly soon. Wesley says he passed science for clown. He says, I've heard you mention that place before. Yes, Wesley, it's just down the road from me. It's about 3-4 miles away, clown. So you've obviously been in this area. What you've been doing here? Are you spying? But yeah, I was at when was I at Clown? Must be middle of last week, probably. I passed through. Christopher says, Andy, can you show me the street light? Right, I can indeed, Christopher. I promised on one of the lives that we did over Christmas that I'd show the bulb for the street light, and I think I've got it down here. Right, I've got to get it because I've put it so safe that it's hard to get at. Oh. Bear with me one second while I give it a clean as well, because it's got a little bit dusty where I put it. But, right. So you said, show me the ball and tell me what sort of bulb it is. Right, here it is. This is it. Now, I've never had this switched on, so I don't know if this works or not, but here it is. It's a bayonet fitting on that end, standard bayonet fitting, and then here is the light, the lamp, the bulb, whatever way up you think it's supposed to be. It's a bit worrying because it feels like it moves about a bit inside. Miguel will probably know more about this than me, because he's got a collection of light bulbs. But yeah, this actually came off either Freegal or Freecycle. Somebody actually put a street light on, again not too far away from me. I think they were at a place called Dronfield near Chesterfield, and I went, and they got the kind of field at the side of their house, and in this field, laying in all the mud, was the swan neck of an old-fashioned street light, and this was the bulb that was in it. Well, I've got the rest of it now in the garage waiting to be restored, but I brought the bulb inside because I thought, right, I need to put that somewhere safe, so here it is. But there's not really anything written on it, at least not that I can see. I can't see a name or anything on it, which is a bit of a shame. So there's nothing really to identify it, but it's kind of a tube in a tube sort of thing. I don't know if you can see from that. It's kind of a U-shaped tube that goes from here up to here, down to here, and that's all in the envelope. Nothing in it, nothing. There's no liquid or anything in it. So, what is it? You get probably know more about that than me, but that is the bulb for the street light. Which I will now carefully put back where I found it. There. That's it. I've put it back where I found it. Dominic says, Keith told me he can't log in at the moment, but he says Virgin Media has offered to post a converter box so he can still use his phones. Oh, that's interesting. That is very interesting. So if anybody's on Virgin Media and wants to use their old phones, get onto them. Wesley says Shirebrook or nearby was my destination when I passed Clown. That's very good, Wesley, because that's nearby as well. Not quite sure why you were going to Shirebrook though. It's yeah. Yeah, I hope you're going nearby and not actually to Shirebrook. That's all I can say really about Shirebrook. Shirebrook is to this part of the world what the Bronx is to New York. Dominic says, it sounds hopeful what Virgin Media are doing there about posting out the converter boxes better than BT. Yeah, well, everybody's better than BT, really, aren't they? And Chris says, Andy, did you get the photo of my street light? I think I did. It's a while back, because it's a few days ago, isn't it? I've had a sleep since then. I think I did. I'll have a look for it in a minute, Christopher. Wesley says, I'd be interested to hear more about their offering from a technical perspective. I guess this is about Virgin Media and their converter box. Yeah, I'd be interested to know what it is as well. My guess is it'll just be an ATA. I would expect it to be an ATA. Yeah, it says low pressure sodium vapor would need a choke to run the lamp. Could be Philips or Osram Globus. Of sodium, not mercury. Yeah, it does have a choke to run it. The choke is in the metal bit of the fitting that bulb goes into, but there is a choke in it. Yeah, and there's a big fuse as well, a big sort of porcelain fuse with wire wrapped around it. But when it gets more light in the evenings, I'll have to go and get it out one day and do a video about it. Wesley says, I'm going back to Shirebrook at the end of January. or does he mean he's going back away from Shire? Are you in Shirebrook at the minute then, Wesley? And you're returning there at the end of January, or you're returning home at the end of January because you're there now? What it says, Langworth Junction. Yeah, it could have been Langworth Junction that you were going to. Yeah, it's better than Shirebrook. It's sort of next place along that, Langworth Junction. Yeah. Cracky. Yeah. So everybody's been in this area, it seems. Yeah, everybody's been round here at Christmas. Yeah. You all ought to have let us know we'd have done a live stream with actual people on it. Yeah, that'd been good, wouldn't it? If we could actually get some real people on it. Of course, Dominic's appeared. If you look at the if you look for the Escape the Shed on Fledborough Viaduct, which was one of the last ones that we made, Dominic features quite heavily in that one. Yeah, if anybody's in the area ever and wants to appear on one of the lives, let me know. Talking of appearing on the lives, Andy in Wales, who you may remember went and filmed a little bit of his amazing collection of telephones. He's got some really nice Bakelite stuff on that. Went and filmed that about a year ago and showed the little film that we made as part of one of the live shows a few weeks later. He's invited us back, so hopefully we'll be going back there again fairly soon to see more of his amazing collection of phones, because apparently he's found some more. He's been having a bit of a clear out and found some more apparently, so hopefully in the next few weeks we'll be popping off over there. Miguel says, my Virgin media box works both pulse and tone. He says, far better than BT. Well, I don't see why they all shouldn't work pulse and tone. It should be fairly easy to make them do that, I would have thought. Wesley says he's going back to Langworth Junction to collect what he dropped off. Oh, yeah. Curiouser and curiouser. Wesley says, are you on VoIP, Miguel? Yeah, it's a good question. That is he on VoIP, or is he just on normal Virgin Media? I think he probably is on VoIP on Virgin though, because it's a cable system. It is a fibre system generally, Virgin, isn't it? It's not a there's no copper involved if you're on Virgin, I don't think. Chris says, I've resent the photos of my street light. Right. Okie dokie, let's have a look for Christopher's street light. I'm sure we've done this before, but anyway. Let's have a look for his street light. Where are we? Internet, Thunderbird Mail. I'm just downloading my thousands and thousands and thousands of emails, 99.9% of which are spam. Right, here is Christopher's street light. If we can get it to appear. that one, was it? Right, we're working on it. What's that one? Right, here we are, I think. Right, let's see if it's appeared. Yes, it's there. Right. So here's Christopher's streetlight. Actually quite modern, that. By comparison to the one I've got here. That looks like quite a modern unit, that. Looks like plastic and aluminium. A lot of it. And there's the bulb. That a lot simpler than what's in mine, but that's a screw-in bulb, which probably holds a lot more securely than a bayonet fitting does, because bayonet fittings wobble about a bit. You can get customer service then, Christopher, if you ring that number that's on there. Get replacement bulbs for it. And there it is lit. Hey, he's got it lit. That's excellent. That nice warm orange glow that is so missing with LED lights these days. And there's one in place. In fact, that may even be the one in place. Is that the actual one when it was still there? Because that image is from Google, isn't it? Is that the actual one, Christopher, when it was still up? Look at the amazingly long bracket arm thing it's on, though. Don't know how that sort of stays attached to the post. That'd fall off. Yeah, that one. Very cool. Very cool. So that's Christopher's street light there, and yeah. Yes, we collect all sorts of weird and wonderful things, don't we? Yeah. Very good, that. Quite like that. What it says, I think there is a coaxial and a twisted pair together. There was in some installations previously. Is this about Virgin Media again? Well, it says that's better a VM then if it's VoIP. Dominic says he'll ask Keith when he gets the converter box. He says Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year, Keith. Happy New Year. Hopefully you'll be able to watch this at some point. Not sure why you can't log in and watch it though at the minute. And why can you not log in and watch it? Is there some technical problem? Because if there is, we can probably navigate you around it. Dominic says, did you sound your siren at midnight, Christopher? Yeah, that's a good question. Did you sound your siren at midnight? As you normally do, the air raid siren. Yeah, did you do it at midnight? Oh, Christopher's other street light is here. Right, this is the other one that he's got. This is the one that's he's got. So to set up on, it looks like a porch or a balcony or something. There it is. That's underneath it. Oops. Sylvania. Part number 2626. And there's the bulb that goes in that one. It's an 80 watt bulb, that. And again, it screws in. And there's the bulb in the packaging. mercury vapor. I do know somebody who's got a building that's got very similar bulbs to that in the roof of the building. He put them in because they're quite frugal on the electric. And there it is lit. But that looks kind of white there. I'm surprised that's not orange. Oh, mercury one's not orange. Notice our friend's building are orange. So maybe they're not quite the same. Yeah, mercury does shine a sort of white, a greenish tinged white, isn't it, mercury, I think. It's the sodium ones that are orange. But yeah, another good street light. We like it. Anybody else got street lights out there? Let us know. Get in touch with us. As always, you can get in touch with us, of course, via the old website, andyshed.corepress.net is the way to do it. And you can also get in touch with us via the forum, gpotelephones.proboards.com. Right, okay, there we go then. Right. Got a lot of buttons to press tonight. I forgot how to do this because I've not used it for a couple of weeks. Because we've been at the radio studio, we've been streaming in a different way for a couple of weeks, so I'm kind of forgetting what to do. Yeah. Well, as it says, I've got those here on the back. It says it's fairly easy on the meter. It says, does the council know you've got that street light, Christopher? They probably do, because I'm guessing somebody had to take it down for him. Dominic says, Sylvania, is that the company that does the little rabbit dolls? Yeah, I was thinking that as well, Dominic. I think it might be a different Sylvania, but or who knows? Who knows? It might have a rabbit doll division. It's more than possible. It is. It's more than possible. Yeah. That's Christopher's street light. Anyway, like I say, anybody else who's got one, do let us know. And that. Any phone updates or anything here other than the princess being refound in the stack of things to do? No, not really. It's been a bit quiet on the telephone front, so we're trying to sort out the radio station, because we are actually trying to get that something like going on air at some stage fairly soon, hopefully. So we would actually like to get it on air. If you want to visit the radio station's website, you can do. It's at pvrbroadcasting.com, and then that will redirect you to a funny link sort of thing. But just type into the web www.pvrbroadcasting.com, and it will take you to the radio station's website, which is gradually growing. It's only small at the moment, but it's gradually growing as we get nearer to going on air. And if any of you out there are interested in making a show for us, or even coming to Pledley Vale and doing some stuff live on the radio, and then definitely get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you. Right, so how are we doing? What's happening in the chat? Oh, Christopher said he didn't sound his siren because the siren's packed up. Oh, I think you might mean it's packed up as in it's packed because he's just moved house, not packed up as in stopped working. Yeah, I thought the siren at midnight thing, I thought was just brilliant, really good that. Yeah, I think Christopher's got a video of it on his channel, of it him doing it in the past as well. I'm sure I've seen a video of him doing that. But yeah, the air raid siren at midnight. I often wonder where all the air raid sirens went, you know. If you think about World War II and all the air raid sirens that were everywhere, very, very, very few seem to have survived. And I'm not entirely sure why. I can think of where there's two. I can think of where there's kind of one in London. These are the big sort of installed ones. I can think of where there's one in London near Waterloo. There's what I think is the remains of one on an industrial building in Sheffield, down a back street in the city centre. And then the sort of mobile hand-cranked ones, there's one at the East Anglia Transport Museum at Carlton Colville, and that's the only one I know where it is. And so those three air raid sirens are the only ones that I know of and know where they are, sort of thing now. And you'd think there'd be more, wouldn't you? But there doesn't seem to be. Where it says, I'm sure I saw Christopher's video setting off the air raid siren. Looked very official, as it was a policeman who set it off. Was it? Can't remember that. And Christopher says, no, Andy says it's not packed as in packaging. He says it has broken down. He says the siren motor has packed up. Oh, that's a shame. Maybe it's just carbon brushes or something, Christopher. Maybe you just need some carbon brushes in it, hopefully, and it'll get going again. Yeah, we've got to get that going. Yeah, like I say, there aren't many of them about anymore. Yeah, got to get it going. Got to get it going. That. Christopher says he got his high pressure sodium street light off the workers when the street light got changed over. He says, and I've been working on the siren. I thought he would have. I thought he would. It must be a serious fault for it not to be ready for New Year's Eve. That's all I can say. But yeah, yeah, excellent. All good stuff. So yeah, that's what Christopher's been up to, and that's what I've been up to. It sounds like he's been doing more than me just recently. Like I say, I've not been doing much other than trying to get the radio station ready and in business for going on air and that. Oh, somebody the other day, I got to say thanks to Neil in Carvale, there's a place near here, who gave me this the other day. I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is a brilliant map that a friend of his makes, who is a kind of drafts person, and she makes these, and this has like got all the railways in this area on as they were like years ago. I've got it upside down, haven't I? Hang on. That's it, yeah. It's got all the railways here as they were years ago in, what is it, 1918 or thereabouts, which is absolutely brilliant. And this map, this one running along here, this one goes sort of left to right-ish. It's really hard to do this when the monitor's pointed towards you. This one is the old Lancashire, Derbyshire and East Coast Railway. So when we did the Christmas live stream that from Snipe Bog a couple of years ago, if you remember that, that was somewhere roughly here. And we did that thing from Snipe Bog, somewhere roughly there. But yeah, thanks to Neil for supplying us with that. He's a bit of a local history buff. He's got a website on local history and that. If you search Old Miner local history, Old Miner local history, you'll find his website, and it's absolutely brilliant. You know, all about the local area around Bolsover, Chesterfield, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, very good. Dominic says, that's a good map. He says, I'd like one of Derby. Yeah, don't know if she does a Derby one. I will ask next time I see him. I'll ask if his friend does a Derby area one. I did ask if they're available to buy from places. I said, well, if I show it, somebody will want to buy one, I'm sure. And apparently there's a bookshop in Buxton or something that sells them, which seems quite a way to go to get a map of Bolsover, but there you go. Christopher says his air raid siren is a GEC made in the UK. A lot of stuff in Australia was made in the UK, wasn't it? He said he'd also been rewiring an Ericsson telephone switchboard. Oh, crikey, that sounds like hard work. That sounds like a lot of wiring. That switchboards have a lot of wiring in them. Wesley says, regarding streetlights, says everything's been converted to LED around here. Massive saving on electricity. No bloody light though. Yeah, well, that's why it saves on electricity, isn't it? Because they don't shine any light, these LED streetlights. The other thing about them, Wesley, is when they switch to these LED streetlights, they are very often connected to a central control room, and they can turn them down. So not only are they not very bright in the first place, they actually turn them down to save money, so they only might run at something like 50% brightness. So if the streetlights in your area have been converted to LED and they are dim, complain to your council and they might turn them up. Adonic says the Mansfield Railway is very interesting, being opened in 1917 and having conventional rather than island platforms. All sorts of weird things around Mansfield. There is the Mansfield and Pinxton as well, that was one of the very first railways ever in existence that had cast iron fish-bellied rail, and I have seen a piece of rail off it that somebody found in a river a few years ago, in the bottom of a river. Well, that's very interesting, and that was around this area. See where we are here, around this bit of Derbyshire, is kind of the cradle of the Industrial Revolution, because there were people like Richard Arkwright and George Stephenson and that, all sort of lurking around this area doing stuff. So we are kind of the cradle of the Industrial Revolution here, and there are lots of firsts in terms of spinning mills and railways and coal mines and that, including the brilliant Crouch Mechanical Traveller, which was a locomotive that walked. It had legs, the Crouch Mechanical Traveller. It was a thing, I think, sort of roughly similar looking to Stephenson's rocket, but on the back of it, it had two legs and feet, and it walked along up the hill from Ambergate up to Crouch. It's not recorded how it used to get back down again. But yeah, the Crouch Mechanical Traveller, look it up online, or Brunton's Mechanical Traveller, because it was a chap called Brunton who thought it up. But apparently it was quite successful, and then he built another one, a bigger one, that he installed at a colliery somewhere, and because that was bigger, sort of materials that they used to construct it at the time, the cast iron instead of steel and stuff like that, weren't up to the job, and the boiler exploded, killing some people, and it was the first death on a railway. G. Scott 2, that must be Gambo. Hello, Gambo. It says, I received a box of telephone scrap, big box of handsets, telephone cables, cases, some broken, but some not bad, stuff for a tenner. That was good going, Gambo. That was really good going. Dominic says, would you do an escape the shed on Blackpool trams? That's hard now, because most of them aren't there anymore. Before the tramway was upgraded, that were all upgraded in inverted commas, because I don't see it as an upgrade. That would have been easy, but now there are so few operational, it's not so easy to do. But yes, could do one on the Blackpool trams and that, and the stuff that Blackpool has lost, and find some of the stuff that's hidden. I don't know if you're aware or not, Blackpool as a town is undergoing a massive redevelopment at the moment, and lots of the old streets of Blackpool are being completely obliterated. And when I say completely obliterated, I mean they're knocking down all the houses, hotels, shops, everything, totally flattening big areas of Blackpool and totally starting from scratch. So they're moving the streets and everything. So there won't be a lot of old Blackpool left fairly soon if they carry on the way they are doing. Yeah, Blackpool is changing a lot. But yes, we could do one on the Blackpool trams. It's time to go and do them. That's what it is. It's time, and it's also inclination, because Blackpool is quite a distance away from here. But yeah, one on the Blackpool trams would be good, or rather on the tramway perhaps, and where it goes and where it used to go. And where it might go in the future as well, because they are currently building an extension to North Station that comes off the promenade at North Pier, Talbot Square, and then it runs sort of half a mile to North Station. A route that closed in 1960 because it was unprofitable and nobody travelled on it. They have now spent a few million quid putting that little spur bit back. Who they think is going to use it, I do not know. It's now at least 2, possibly 3 years behind schedule for opening, and it's just an absolute money pit. It really is. Dominic says, that's terrible, Andy, about Blackpool. Sounds like levelling funding. Yeah, they've already done a lot of it, and there is more to come. There is a guy on YouTube who will tell you a lot about it. His videos are very good. He's called A Walk on the Wild Side, and he's a Blackpool guy, and he does some brilliant videos and also live streams from Blackpool, and yeah, you learn a lot from him about the area and stuff, and the origins of Blackpool and that. He doesn't seem to know much about the trams though, strangely. But yeah, about the streets of Blackpool and what's going on, he knows that kind of inside out. Dominic says, I haven't been to Blackpool since I was a kid. Well, there you go, you see, you're missing out. Christopher says, since I've moved in my new area, All the street lights are still high pressure sodium and mercury vapour. Oh, is that why you moved, Christopher? Get away from the LEDs. Get away from the flickery LEDs. Wesley says he spent many holidays in Blackpool in his childhood. Always stayed on North Shore. Yes, that's the better part of Blackpool, shall we say. That's the posh end. That is, Wesley. Christopher says, can I call you live on CNET? You can't at the minute because it's not connected up at the minute at this end. Gambo says, last time I was in Blackpool, where I parked was where the old train platforms were. Didn't realise how big the area was originally. Yeah, that'll have been Central Station. The big car park stroke coach park that has just been sort of open air parking for years, as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. That's all been redeveloped now as well. They're doing massive things in Blackpool. It must be costing millions, possibly even billions. Absolutely massive things that they're doing. I do not know how they are justifying the stuff that they're doing, because it must be costing a fortune to do it all. I just realised that the camera in the corner of that shot there. Yeah, it must be costing a fortune to do it all, what they're doing, and it'll not make Blackpool any better. In fact, if it's anything like the so-called tramway upgrade, it will actually make it worse, because it will destroy the history and heritage of the town. And a lot of people who used to go there to ride on the old trams, like me, haven't been in years because nothing left to go for anymore. Yeah, I'll wait here for them to decide to knock down the tower. No, it'll happen. It'll happen when they realise they could take that tower down and they could put a skyscraper up in its place that had got floors all the way up that they could sell to people or rent out to people for vast sums of money, rather than it just being a lattice structure with nothing in it. When they realise that they could do that, you watch, Blackpool Tower will miraculously catch fire, a bit like some of Blackpool's other historic assets have done over the years. Yes, who remembers the Fun House? Ooh, controversial. Yeah. Yeah, Chris says, Andy, just sent a picture of the phone sockets we have here in Australia. Okie dokie. I've shut my email now. But yeah, we will do something from Blackpool at some point before it all goes horribly wrong, which it kind of is doing already. But yeah, we will do something from there and see what we can find, what remains, and that. But yeah, oh yes, I used to go to Fleetwood Festival every summer and do that, and because there were some good shops in Fleetwood. On Fleetwood Festival Day, all the shops in Fleetwood used to be open. So as well as having Fleetwood Festival, you could go around, and there were some really good junk shops in Fleetwood with phones and things in. And I found a load of phones in a junk shop one year, and went back the following year and I couldn't even find the junk shop, it had gone. Tony says, wasn't the local MP charged with corruption? Was he? I didn't know that. It's an interesting one. After I will look into that. Well, he says, happy memories. He says, I used to love Cannon Ball and saw them at the Winter Gardens, he thinks. And the Allo stage show on the pier. Yeah, Cannon Ball were in Blackpool for quite a long time because they used to advertise the Cannon Ball show on the side of the trams. I do remember them doing that. But yeah, the other one that was famous was Linda Nolan of the Nolan Sisters, because she did a residency on the pier in something called Maggie Bay's Show Bar on one of the piers. I think it was Central Pier. But yeah, on one of my trips to Blackpool, I met the little fat guy off Ain't Half Hot Mum. I can't remember his name. The little fat round chap off Ain't Half Hot Mum. It was actually a Woolworths window, signing books and autographs or something in the window of Woolworths. That's how long ago it was. It was a Woolworths. But yeah, not met anybody else famous in Blackpool other than Phil Kelsall playing the organ. Of course, I've seen him. Who's not been to Blackpool and seen Phil Kelsall? But yeah, those were the days. Don Estelle, says Wesley. That's who I was thinking of, Wesley. Well spotted. Yeah, it was Don Estelle. Chris says, Andy, what volts do your street lights run on? Mine are 240 volts AC. Yeah, about that. Yeah, 240 volts I would guess, although here they kind of turned it down by about 10 volts a few years ago, so technically now everything's 230 volts, and sometimes when you actually measure it it's only 220 volts, but yeah, technically they would have been designed to run on 240, yeah, so would have been the same as over there. I think our electrical system and yours, Christopher, over there are fairly similar. It's out in America where they have this strange 110 volt system that messes up when you buy anything from America. So yeah, yes, those are the days. Blackpool and Don Estelle in Woolworths window and the rain coming sideways, and Price Busters Market. If anybody's been to Blackpool, Price Busters Market, who remembers Price Busters Market on the prom, and that, and the American Pancake Parlour, which was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think it was the American Pancake Parlour, or was it next door to the American Pancake Parlour, where there was a place that you could go in like a restaurant-y, cafe kind of diner type thing, and the staff were terrible, and you went in and you'd hear shouting and screaming from the kitchens, and you'd hear pots and pans being thrown about, and staff stomping about and yelling at each other and that. And to this day, I don't know if it was for real or if it was a kind of show, a gimmick that they were doing, but it was either at the American Pancake Parlour or it was nearby it. It was certainly one of the kind of shop units around the base of the tower building on the outside, and it was so bad it was good, if you know what I mean. It was entertaining to go and listen to them, but yeah, really good. And but that's a few years ago now. Wesley says he thinks Don Estelle was a Lancastrian. He could well have been. He could well have been. Dominic says, must go to Blackpool on a Heritage Tram Day. I've been lucky to get ex-Blackpool cars each time I've been to Cryche. Yeah, well, I think they've got quite a lot of ex-Blackpool cars now at Cryche, so that's probably why you get them quite frequently when you go. Also, Cryche is notoriously wet and cold, and a lot of the ex-Blackpool cars are enclosed and got heaters, because Blackpool is wet and cold too, a lot of the time. But yeah, well, let us know when you want to go to Blackpool, Dominic. We'll have a trip and we'll record and escape the shed. How about that? Let us know. We'll record and escape the shed out there. I'll rope you in again. But yeah, it's better to do it out of season though, Blackpool, really. It's much better to go out of season. Um, so yeah, yes, those were the days. Yeah. But yeah, the trams in Blackpool have lost something now, because the heritage trams that are left only run kind of between about 10 o'clock in the morning and 4 in the afternoon for most of the time. So you kind of miss out on that cold, rainy, midnight last tram to Fleetwood thing, which was very atmospheric and very, very good. In fact, being New Year's Eve, I can tell you a story about a Blackpool tram that happened on this very day sometime in the mid to late 1980s. Most of Blackpool's tram drivers are also bus drivers, but there used to be a select few who were full-time tram drivers who in winter drove the core Fleetwood service vehicles that originally were what they called OMO cars, and then in the 1980s they had some new trams delivered, built by East Lancashire coach builders, called the Centenary cars. Well, this relates to an OMO car sometime in the 80s, and a driver who everybody knew as Mad Albert. And I know this story is true because Mad Albert himself told me this story. And he was working one New Year's Eve driving the Fleetwood service cars. And they used to run a full service on New Year's Eve, but a kind of Sunday service. But they didn't finish early. They ran to the end of service because they provided a service for people who wanted to go out on New Year's Eve. So they ran to end of service, and I think the last tram returned to depot about 12:15, 12:30. You know, midnight 15, midnight 30, and that was the last one back into the depot from Fleetwood. And Man Albert had worked it in such a way that he was going off after New Year's Eve. He was going to have a few days holiday, and he wanted to get away pronto and early hours of New Year's Day, because I think he was going somewhere. I don't know if he got a caravan or something, but he was going somewhere anyway, and he wanted to get away. And what he was going to do was finish his shift, go home, get changed, pick up his suitcase and get off. Early hours of New Year's Day, when there'd be nothing on the road, everybody'd be staggering back from the pub, and get off to wherever he was going for his little holiday. So it was all ready to go, and he was up at Fleetwood, and the OMO cars had radios on them. Not all Blackpool trams were fitted with radios, but the one-man operated cars were. And he got a radio call on his Pi radio from the inspectors to say that he should watch out at North Shore as he was coming south, because there would be a large group of people who were going to get on the tram. They'd rung up the depot to make sure the tram was running, because these people wanted to celebrate the New Year actually on a Blackpool tram. There were going to be about 20 or 30 people. They wanted to actually see in the New Year on a Blackpool tram. They were going to get on at North Shore, and they were going to get off somewhere on North Promenade, somewhere between North Pier and the Tower, and then at Tower, Manchester Square, Albert would set the points and go across the road down Rigby Road into the depot. And Albert said, "Yeah, that's okay." He said, "I'll be running to time." He said, "But I won't be hanging around if they're not there." And the inspector said, "Okay, Albert, that's fair enough." Yeah. So Albert's keen to get back, shall we say. So he sets off from Fleetwood, pretty much empty tram, all the way down to North Shore. And sure enough, somewhere near the Norbrett Castle Hotel, there's a big crowd of people with sort of bottles of champagne and champagne flutes and things, and bottles of beer and all kinds of other drinks in their hand, all merry, but not totally drunk, but merry, waiting to get on his tram. So they all climbed aboard, and more or less filled up his tram, and the champagne is flowing and the beer's flowing and that. And I said, "Do you want a drink, Albert?" And Albert said, "No." He says, I've got to get back. So he's in the tram and he notches up the controller, and it is off. Nobody else to get on, and the tram is rattling along, and it's rattling along so well that while it's going along, Albert gets out of the cab of the tram, stands on the platform, takes his Blackpool transport jacket off, puts his normal coat on, puts his jacket in his bag, takes off all his uniform basically, puts his normal civic clothes on, because he's not messing about when he gets in the depot, takes his tie off and everything, sticks that in his bag, and this is all while the tram's doing about 30 miles an hour down Blackpool Prom. So he then gets back in, sits back down, shuts the cab door of the thing, gets hold of the controls again, just in time to slow it down, to go across the points and across Blackpool Promenade and down the road back to Rigby Road Depot. So he gets into Rigby Road Depot, switches the main breaker off on the tram, all the lights go out and everything. He jumps out, gets his bag, runs into the cash office, chucks all his cash down the counting machine, signs for it, gets in his car and zooms off as fast as he can on his holidays. Gets to where he's having his holiday, has a nightcap, goes to bed, thinks, "Yeah, I've arrived, I'm going to have a nice little holiday." Wakes up in the morning by a phone call. Phone call is along the lines of, "Albert, it's the depot manager. We've had a phone call asking where one of the guys is that got on your tram last night, because he didn't come home." And Albert suddenly realises and says, "I think you'd better go and have a look in the depot." And sure enough, Albert had remembered to pick them up on North Shore, but he hadn't remembered to drop them off. And when the depot manager went and looked in the tram depot on New Year's Day, he found this tram full of sozzled revellers, all completely out cold, sleeping it off. Still there the following morning. So that is one of the legendary New Year's Eve stories about Man Albert and the last tram from Fleetwood. But yeah, I have also worked a last tram from Fleetwood, and it moves quite quick. The last tram from Fleetwood, it gets back to the depot quite fast. In fact, I didn't know trams could go that fast. But yeah, that's the story of Mad Albert and the New Year's Eve revellers, and yeah, quite apt that I'm telling that on New Year's Eve. I just happened to think of it. Right. Gambo said, if going to Blackpool, give us a shout. It's easier to travel there if doing out of shed. Yeah, more the merrier, Gambo, yeah. What's everybody saying about these 120 volt transformers and things? Christopher says, we have 120 volt systems in Australia, but used only by the railway signalling. And it's a pain when you get a railway signal. You've got to have a step down transformer from 240 volts to 120 volts. Wesley says, it's strange that the Americans use 120 volt system. Actually, I think it's 110 technically, isn't it, that they use? Or supposedly 110, but it probably is 120 if nothing's been drawn on it. It says it's very strange because they need a bigger conductor. Yeah, I think they see it as safer. Although I still wouldn't fancy getting a shock for a 110 volt system. Wesley says, didn't the Monkees sing a song about the last tram to Fleetwood? No. But Roy Chubby Brown sang a song about one called Where That Is Alice. Because Alice is a Blackpool tram. Christopher says, in my living room I have two telephones, a 1967 GPO 746 landline, and Ericsson 1900 A66 on CNET. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Yeah, Alice is a Blackpool tram. Full name, Princess Alice. It's the open top double decker that you'll see in photos. If you search Google for Blackpool 706 or Princess Alice, you'll find photos. Which is actually kind of almost how that tram originally was, because when it was delivered as an open topper. What they now call the balloon cars, the original ones, the open top ones, because they were delivered in two batches, the original ones were officially known as luxury dreadnoughts, being the luxury version of the old dreadnoughts, which were the trams that they replaced, one of which is in the collection at Cryche, but scandalously is dumped in a store at Clay Cross, because it's an absolutely unique vehicle with 4 staircases and really should be at the top of the list for restoration, and I've said so for years and years and years. And Blackpool ran it until just a few years ago. Then Cryche wanted it back. They got it back from Blackpool, where they'd been using it and maintained it, and when Cryche got it back, they stuck it in a store at Clay Cross and basically forgot all about it. It's absolutely scandalous. Christopher says, all Melbourne W-class trams use 120 volt light bulbs. Yes, yeah, they will actually be running on 110 volts because the W-class trams run on about 550 volts DC, and what you will find is that there's 5 bulbs in series. There'll be 5 light bulbs in series, which give you basically 110. There'll be 5 110 now. Yes, there'll be 510 volt light bulbs in series, which gives you the 550 volts that is being supplied from the traction current of the trams. Now, a few years ago in Blackpool, they modified a lot of their trams by putting inverters in them. So they took out the 110 volt light bulbs and put low voltage light bulbs in them, run off inverters. But it wasn't very successful. They had a lot of trouble with these inverter fitted trams. They were more out of service than they were in, but I think they ironed it out eventually and managed to get it working. Wesley says, so when a lamp goes out, they all go out? Yes, all 5 in that string will go out, yeah. But normally, they're not all in a string together. So if you're in a double decker, there'll be like, in that circuit, there'll be like 3 downstairs and 2 upstairs. And then there'll be another circuit where there's 3 upstairs and 2 downstairs. So never will all of the lights in a saloon go out if one blows. But of course they do all go out when it goes over a section of insulated overhead, like a section breaker or something like that. They do all flicker out and then flicker on again, because there's no battery backup or anything in a traditional tram. Christian says, Melbourne trams run on 600 volts DC. Yeah, it might be 600 volts DC. To be honest, 550 volts for a traditional tramway is the average. It can be as low as 500, it can be as high as 600. Going back to Blackpool again, when they were testing, I think it was 761, which was one of the balloons they rebuilt as what they eventually called a Jubilee car. When they were testing it in the late 70s, they were testing it in the early hours of the morning, and it had got this new thyristor control gear in it, what they call chopper. It was a thing made by Brush Engineering at Loughborough, and it was something called chopper control. And basically what it did was it didn't limit the number of volts, but it just turned on the 550 or so volts, turned it on and off very quickly. Hence chopper, you know, on off, on off, on off, on off, and to make the tram run more slowly. Great idea in theory, but used a bit of electronics in practice. And they were testing this tram overnight one night, and it failed at Gin Square. And when they looked at it, it had fried some components in the tram. And the reason it had fried components in the tram was because there was nothing else running on the system, because it was the early hours of the morning. The voltage that tram had been getting had actually been 750 rather than the 550 it should have. But the Blackpool and Fleetwood Tramroad, when that was instigated, those trams were designed to run on 500 volts. Now they run on a 550-ish system at Cryche, or even when they're back in Blackpool, and that is why trams from the Blackpool and Fleetwood Tramroad, and particularly Rack 2 at Cryche, which is a light tram anyway, is mega fast. It can easily do 50 plus miles an hour, that tram, and it's well over 100 years old. It is scary fast. It really is. You know, it really can move. And a few years ago, well, it's quite a lot of years ago now, I think it was about 1997, it went back to Blackpool for a very short period of time, only for about a fortnight, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Blackpool and Fleetwood Tramroad opening. Not Blackpool Corporation, but the Tramroad to Fleetwood. And I travelled on it to Fleetwood and back, and it really really moved. And I think when it was first restored in Blackpool in the 1960s, I seem to remember there's a story about a very early police radar trap gun thing being used, and they clocked it at over 50 mile an hour then. So yeah, quick. But yeah, so somewhere between 500 and 600 volts they normally run on. Some of the modern LRV systems run on 750 volts, but a traditional tramway runs on 550-ish, give or take 50. Depends a bit on how long your sections are as well, because DC does not travel well. So if you're near where the power is being fed in to that particular section, then you're probably getting nearly 600 volts. But if you're at the end of the section where there's no power feeder, you might be down to 500 volts. DC does not travel well through wires or cables or anything. That's why most electrical systems around the world use AC, not DC, because DC just doesn't travel. Wesley says, I don't like thyristors. No, neither do I, Wesley. Christopher says, on W class trams, when one bulb goes out, all the bulbs go out. I see it happen, but W class trams now use LED bulbs. Yeah, there must be LEDs with electronics in the bulb though, so that it can still run 110 volts. You probably have to put them in the right way around as well, because an LED cares which way around it is, doesn't it? You know, it only works one way. So if it's a DC system and you put that bulb in the wrong way round, then it'll not light up. Yeah, thyristor chopper controls are not great. I mean, they do work, but they make an awful noise. Dominic says the Class 323s have a very interesting traction control system, I recall. Well, I don't know about that. I'm not very up on trains, Dominic, so I don't know what they had for traction control. But they come up with these complicated electronic ways of doing traction control, and the problem is they're electronic, and small electronic components on circuit boards are not well suited to be rattled around on trams, particularly in a damp, salty environment like they have in Blackpool. I mean, in the 50s they invented something called VAMBAC, and I'm not sure who invented VAMBAC. I can't remember who invented it, but it stands for Variable Automatic Multi-Notch Braking and Acceleration Control. And whereas trams used to have a controller that was basically a switch with multiple contacts that connected the power to the wheels or to the motors via a different number of resistors for how fast you wanted to go. So your first notch of power had big resistors, so power came in from the overhead through the controller. First notch went through big resistors to the wheels. Second notch uncoupled the first notch and then went through a slightly smaller value resistor to the wheels. Third notch, a smaller still resistor to the wheels, until your last notch of series went through no resistors, so it was just 500 volts going straight through, or 550 volts going straight through. And then after the series notches, it did the same again, but with the motors wired in parallel, so it basically went twice as fast. So that's what they call a series parallel controller. And that was fine. It meant a tram had about 8 or 10 notches of power between nothing and full speed. But it was notably notchy. I mean, when you put a notch on, the tram suddenly went a bit faster, like dun, 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 and start going a bit faster. Now, somebody thought, what we ought to do is have a lot of notches and a lot of resistors, but we can't fit all those into a controller. So what they did was they invented this vanback thing, which sat on the Blackpool trams. It was located on the roof above the centre platform, because they are centre loading in Blackpool, and normally a trolley tower with the trolley or the pantograph on the top. And in the base of this trolley tower, they put this vanback equipment. Now, what this vanback equipment was, if anybody's ever seen a sock knitting machine, you know, like a round knitting machine, it looked very much like that. And instead of having about 8 or 10 notches, there were a lot more, somewhere between 50 and 100. I don't know how many exactly. And it was an idea that came from America, from PCC cars in America that used it very successfully. And what happened was, there were all these contactors around in a circle, and these contactors around in this big circle, there was an arm that went round. It was powered by a little motor that went round and touched on each one in turn. Now, on the PCC design in America, this arm moved. So when you set off from a standing start, this arm is up slightly, and you put on first notch, or rather, I say you put on first notch. Actually, in the cab, there is a joystick that you push forward or pull backwards, and if you put on first notch or start pushing the joystick forward, it starts powering this little motor that moves this arm. This arm moves round and drops onto the first contactor. If you move the arm round a bit further by putting more power on in the cab and putting more volts onto this low voltage motor that runs on about, I think it runs on about 24 volts, it comes off the first contactor, moves to the next one, and drops onto the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And depending on how fast you turn this little pilot motor, so how fast you move your joystick forward or backwards, depends on how fast it goes round. So if you just move your joystick forward a little bit, it'll go notch 1, notch 2, notch 3, notch 4. If you move your joystick forward very quickly, it'll go notch 1, notch 2, notch 3, notch 4, and it'll accelerate faster until it gets around to all the notches. Now, the braking system, you pull the joystick backwards, and what do you think it does? This little motor goes the other way and goes notch 10, notch 9, notch 8, notch 7, notch 6, notch 5, notch 5, 3, 2, 1, braking 1, braking 2, braking 3, braking 4, and it's electric braking, and it goes the other way around into the multiple brake notches, and there's a lot of notches on this thing. Now, on a PCC, this arm moves and touches all these contactors, but to get around the patents, when they came to do it in the UK, and I think I'm wanting to say it was Brush Engineering again who had the idea, but I'm not sure if it was or not. They wanted to get around the American PCC patents, and the way they did it was, instead of having this arm go down to touch these contactors, they had the contactors electro-pneumatically operated, so as the arm went round, each contact came up and touched it. So the arm went round to notch 1, and then this thing came up and dunk and connected it. Then as the arm rubbed past, that one dropped down and the next one came up and contacted it. And there's somewhere between 50 and 100 of these things around this, what they call the knitting machine. Now, what do you think the problem was? The problem was, in Blackpool there is salt, there is sand, there are lots of abrasive things, and this thing with all these high voltage contacts in it gets hot. So it's got louvers on the side to let the heat out, but these louvers also let the sand and the salt and the rain and the sea spray in. So these contactors that come up used to jam. Now the real problem is, you go notch 1, tunk, it comes up, moves along, that goes down. Notch 2, tunk, that comes up, that one gets stuck. Notch 3, you move past it, so it's unconnected, it's uncoupled it, but it's stuck up. Notch 3, notch 4, tunk, comes up, goes down. Notch 5, tunk, up and down. But remember, notch 3 is stuck up. So when you then want to brake, it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, and it can't get past notch 3 because it's stuck up in the air, and it hits on the side of it. So it hits on the side of it, makes a contact, and you are then stuck on notch 3. Yeah? And you can't get to any braking notches. So you can't brake, and not only can you not brake, you also can't stop the power because it's stuck on notch 3. The only way you can disconnect notch 3 is to go to notch 4 and go a bit faster. Obviously, this caused a problem. Now, luckily, most of the Blackpool vanbacks, in fact I think all of the Blackpool vanbacks, had a backup air brake system and also a backup handbrake system. So you could stop them in an emergency if you realised what had happened, because you just threw the main breaker of the tram off, which cut off all the electrics to the whole vehicle. Air brakes on, which is a positive on system, not like a modern lorry or bus air brake. It's a positive on system, so you have to have air in a tank to put the air brakes on, but normally it's charged and you can put them on. So you can stop it on the air brakes, then you have to remember to wind the handbrake on, because as the air brakes leak off, the thing could roll away if you don't wind the handbrake on. So you could always stop them. This was on the Blackpool trams. Leeds had a prototype one that is now preserved at Christ, Leeds 602, that did not have air brakes. And it was all electric. And there have been some very brown trouser moments at Christ involving Leeds 602, with the end of the track coming up. No way of stopping it. And there was a guy at Christ called John Markham, who was a brilliant electrical engineer, and also became a railway inspector, strangely, who invented a system whereby he created a panic button for 602, where you could press this button, this extra button that wasn't in any way prototypically correct, but it had been added as a safety feature, that would basically slam some electric track brakes on. I think it slammed the electric track brakes on, and cut off all the power to everything else using relays. And so it had this kind of panic button on the dash, this big red panic button. But when it was in service in Leeds, it didn't have that. But this is the problem with vanback. And like I say, this knitting machine thing used to get hot. So these contacts and that, of course, it's all there's all solder in it and that, because it's all like phosphor bronze contacts or copper contacts, all soldered to wires and things and stuff. And this thing used to get hot, and particularly if it wasn't working quite right, it would get very hot. There'd be a lot of ants going through it. And there's a story about one person on a Blackpool tram, a conductor, standing on the centre platform one day with one of his colleagues who was riding into work, and it was in the sort of 60s and 70s when you had nylon shirts and things, and he said, I watched as my colleague's shirt began to disappear before my eyes. It was just disappearing, big holes appearing in his shirt, and it was solder dripping out of this bloody vanback thing that was melting his shirt. And so yeah, that's what happens when you put complicated electronics into trams. But that wasn't particularly electronic. That was electromechanical, really, most of it, but overly complex and didn't suit Blackpool very well. The only people I know who have managed to get a vanback working really successfully are the people at the East Anglia Transport Museum at Carlton Colville, and I think the key to it is to allow a bit of slop in things, to let things move a bit. Don't do everything up too tightly, don't make your tolerances too close, because if you do, it'll jam up and it'll all go wrong. But yeah, that is the story of the Blackpool vanbacks. And the vanbacks used to run on the Marton route in Blackpool, which closed in 1962. Was it doomed from the start, the Marton route? Because if any of you have got a pen and paper, MARTON, the Marton route in Blackpool, write it down. And now look at it in a mirror and see what it says. And it's God's honest truth. Was it doomed from the start, the Marton route in Blackpool? Because you write Marton down on a piece of paper, put a mirror alongside it, read it in the mirror, and you read it says no tram. Honestly. So there you go. There's a story for you for New Year's Eve. Christopher says, I've got tram light bulbs here. Old 110, 120 volt ones. They'll be collectible. So, somebody in a tram museum somewhere will want those back eventually, Christopher. Chris says, I seen a tram in Melbourne go bang when it pulled down the overhead. And it was one of the new ones as well. Yeah, they do expect. I don't know quite what happens, but I think they have a pantograph retractor on them that pulls the pantograph down if something goes wrong. I was on a Sheffield Supertram that did that on purpose once when they were testing a Sheffield Supertram, and it went with a hell of a bang. Dominic says, I miss traction control systems that go clunk. Yeah, vanbacks go clunk, but they go clunk, 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 instead of going clunk, 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 clunk. They do go clunk vanbacks, but they do a lot of clunks very quickly, which is the problem. But yeah, that's the vanback story for you. And with that vanback story, that is about it, I think, for this New Year's Eve. Got to get off a little bit earlier today before I turn into a pumpkin or something. But we will be back with another live show very, very soon. We are going to be having a couple of weeks off now from the lives. So let me get my diary out and I'll tell you when that means we're back. We are having a couple of weeks off from the Sunday night lives. Anyway, there might be some lives at other times, but the Sunday night lives are going to be off now for a couple of weeks. So we will be back on Sunday the 21st of January. Okay. Oh, hang on, are we? Yes. We're back on Sunday the 21st of January. Okay. 21st, Sunday the 21st will be our next sort of Sunday evening live stream at 6:30 as usual. There may be some others interspersed before then from the radio station and that, but they're kind of done very sort of last minute and ad hoc and things. But in the meantime, I will be in touch with Dominic and we'll see if we can sort something out for a video from Blackpool, and I'll tell you some more of the stories from that famous West Coast town, because there are a lot of stories from Blackpool. I worked there for a summer, and there are a lot of stories about the tower and the Pleasure Beach and the illuminations and the trams. My favourite one about the trams, I will leave you with this one, was a woman waiting at Pleasure Beach to get on a tram going north. The tram sailed up absolutely full from Stargate. The doors opened. She didn't have much of a chance of getting on, but in hope, she said to the conductor, "Excuse me, do you stop at the Savoy?" To which the conductor turned and replied, "On my wages, you must be joking." Shut the doors and carried on. That is it from us here at Andy Shed Live for another Sunday. As I say, we will return in 3 weeks' time. I'm 2 weeks off, so we'll be back in 3 weeks' time. Have a fantastic new year and everything ahead. Gambo says, good Hogmanay and a good new year. Yeah, happy Hogmanay, Gambo. And we will see you all in 3 weeks' time, 3 weeks today. And there might be a bit of something before that, but like I say, make sure you click that bell icon thingy or whatever to find out when we upload something new. But from me, for now, have a fantastic whatever it is, yeah. Yeah, what, yeah, oh, what is it, yeah. Yeah, New Year, that's what, yeah, I just had a brain cloud then for a minute, yeah. Think I've got a van back going round in there somewhere. But yeah, have a fantastic New Year, Hogmanay, and whatever it is in your part of the world. Like I say, we will see you in 3 weeks' time for another Andy Shed Live. But from me, for now, have a great one, everybody, and we'll see you very soon. Bye for now.